I'm 32 male, and until a few months ago, I thought I had my life pretty well figured out. I'm an architect, steady job, own my own house, and I was engaged to a woman I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. Let's call her F. We'd been together for 3 years, and I was head over heels. She was everything I thought I wanted, smart, charming, and admittedly beautiful in a way that turned heads wherever we went. Our wedding was planned for the end of the year, and things seemed to be on track. Or so I thought. It all started with what seemed like an innocent enough request. F had been talking a lot about her parents' house lately, how it was old and falling apart. She grew up in it, and I could tell she was sentimental about the place. I wasn't thrilled when she brought up the idea of helping them renovate it. It's their home, and they're struggling. Wouldn't it be nice to give back? She said, her big brown eyes locking onto mine. I told her we'd see after the wedding. I wanted to focus on saving for our future, a house of our own, maybe kids. She agreed, but seemed a little distant after that. I chalked it up to her being stressed with wedding planning. Little did I know, that was the first crack in what would soon shatter everything. About 2 months before the wedding, I noticed some strange activity on my bank account. I'd set up a separate savings account for wedding expenses and kept it strictly for that purpose. One morning, I logged in to check how much we had left after paying a few vendors, and I noticed a withdrawal. $15,000 gone. I froze. It had to be a mistake, right? I called the bank immediately, and they confirmed the withdrawal was made a week ago by F. She had access to the account because, at the time, I trusted her completely. When I confronted her about it, she didn't even try to deny it. She acted like I was overreacting. It's for my parents, she said, completely nonchalant. They needed the money for renovations, and I figured we could spare it. It's not like it's all gone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You figured we could spare it? Without asking me? Her face twisted, like she was offended I even questioned her. They're family, and they needed help. What kind of person wouldn't help their family? I told her that wasn't the point. The point was she took money that wasn't hers to take, without consulting me, and spent it on something I explicitly said could wait. That's when she dropped the bombshell. They've already started the renovations. The contractor's been paid, and the materials are on the way. It's not like we can just get the money back now. My blood ran cold. She didn't just take the money, she spent it, and without any way to recover it. It didn't stop there. Over the next week, I started digging deeper and found out just how far this rabbit hole went. Not only had she drained the account, but she'd also been in talks with her parents about this for months. They'd planned everything together, fully expecting me to foot the bill. I decided to pay them a visit. I wanted to hear it directly from them, thinking maybe F had twisted the story. When I arrived, I was greeted by her mother with a bright, cheery smile, like nothing was wrong. "Oh, you must be here to see the progress," she said, gesturing to the gutted living room. "Progress?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. She launched into a full-blown tour, showing me every single corner of the house that was being renovated. New floors, new kitchen cabinets, new everything. I asked how they planned to pay for all this, and her father gave me a smug grin. That's what family's for, right? I could feel my hands shaking. They didn't just feel entitled to my money. They acted like it was their God-given right. When I told them I hadn't agreed to any of this, her mother scoffed. "F told us you were fine with it. Don't be so stingy. You're going to marry her, which means you're marrying into this family. Our problems are your problems." I left without saying another word. That night, I told F the wedding was off. She laughed like I was joking. When she realized I wasn't, she flipped the script entirely. "You're seriously calling off our wedding over this? What kind of man abandons his fiancée over helping her family?" I told her it wasn't about helping her family. It was about trust, about respect. She'd made a major financial decision without me, lied about it, and dragged me into a mess I never agreed to. That wasn't something I could just overlook. Her response? She started crying, calling me heartless, accusing me of being selfish. When that didn't work, she turned to anger. "Fine. If you want to call it off, go ahead. But good luck getting your money back. The renovations are already done, and you can't undo them." She was right about one thing. I couldn't undo the renovations. But I wasn't about to let her or her parents walk away without consequences. I consulted a lawyer the very next day. Luckily, Since F and I weren't married yet, her actions were considered theft. The money in the account was legally mine, and she had no right to spend it without my consent. My lawyer helped me file a lawsuit against both F and her parents. The renovations were done, but the contractors hadn't been fully paid yet. Turns out, they were waiting on another payment from F's parents, who were now scrambling because they didn't have the money to cover the remaining balance. When they got served, F's mother called me, screaming into the phone about how I was ruining their lives. "You're going to destroy our family over a little money? What's wrong with you?" I hung up and let my lawyer handle the rest. In court, the evidence was overwhelming. Bank statements, emails between F and the contractors, and even texts from her parents discussing how they could convince me if I found out. The judge ruled in my favor, ordering them to pay back every cent they'd taken, plus damages for the emotional distress and breach of trust. But the best part? The contractors sued them too for breach of contract when they couldn't pay the remaining balance. They ended up having to sell the house, the very house they just renovated, to cover their debts. F tried reaching out a few times after the case was settled, begging me to forgive her. She even showed up at my office once, claiming she'd made a mistake and wanted to start over. I told her the same thing every time. "You didn't just make a mistake. You showed me exactly who you are." As for her parents, they moved in with a relative out of state, and last I heard, they're still struggling financially. It's been a few months now, and I'm finally starting to feel like myself again. The betrayal stings, but there's a strange sense of satisfaction knowing they faced the full consequences of their entitlement. The months following the lawsuit were a roller coaster. I wasn't just dealing with the betrayal of someone I loved. I was also navigating the fallout. Mutual friends, people I thought would support me, started questioning my actions. "Wasn't that a little harsh?" one friend asked. "She's your fiancée, dude. Couldn't you have just worked it out?" said another. I didn't bother explaining myself anymore. I realized something important during all this. Some people don't understand boundaries until they're the ones getting hurt. For them, what F and her parents did wasn't a big deal because it wasn't their money, their trust, or their future being stolen. The lawsuit was exhausting, but it was worth every sleepless night. The moment the ruling came through, it was like a weight lifted off my chest. Seeing F and her parents face the consequences was cathartic. Not because I wanted revenge for the sake of it, but because it reaffirmed a principle I'd almost compromised on. You don't let people walk all over you, no matter who they are. Since then, I've taken a hard look at how I approach relationships. I've become more guarded, but not in a bitter way. It's about protecting myself. The red flags I ignored with F, her tendency to make decisions without consulting me, the way she'd manipulate situations to her advantage. Those are things I'll never overlook again. I also started therapy, not because I felt broken, but because I wanted to process everything in a healthy way. My therapist helped me see that this wasn't just about the money. It was about control. F and her family believed they had a right to dictate how I lived my life, and when I didn't comply, they lashed out. I've since reconnected with some old friends, people who weren't part of the drama, and didn't judge me for standing my ground. They've reminded me that not everyone operates like F and her parents. If you're ever in a situation where someone tries to take advantage of your kindness, remember this. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you the bad guy. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. Looking back, I could have handled certain conversations better. Maybe I should have seen the warning signs earlier. But at the end of the day, I don't regret a single decision I made once I found out the truth. F and her family wanted to take something that wasn't theirs, and they paid the price for their entitlement. Life's too short to waste it on people who don't respect you. So, what do you think? Was I too harsh, or did I do the right thing? If you like this story and want to hear more wild tales, subscribe. Trust me, I've got plenty more where this came from.